Good morning, America. Checking the microphone. Thank you, Z. Appreciate you. Lisa, Lenny, Claire, good to see you. Jen, thank you.
Last week we did the show on air conditioning and now I'm freezing. Although,
I don't think it's that cold.
feel my hands.
Oh, I think you're dead. Cindy, Wendy, Clarita, Wardo, Heather, good morning, everybody. How's everyone feeling this morning? It is kind of wild that in just a day we had an almost 50-degree change in weather.
But this weekend will be finally summer for us.
Heather, thank you very much for that sub with Prime. Appreciate that.
Well, I changed that. What is going on with this weather?
This is why you don't track it that many days out. You just got to live it, you know?
Because now it was going to be like 78, like high 70s going into this weekend. And now it's like mid to low 70s, stays 70, and then it goes back to 68 next week.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
This is why you just shouldn't do that.
I love the weather. Weather is like my favorite thing. Ever since I was a kid.
Oh, because you're like a radio loser.
Yeah.
Right? It's just every radio. It's so weird. In radio, for some reason, and I am also a radio loser, but in radio, for some reason, all the old school radio guys were fascinated with one of two things. Mm-hmm. It was either the weather, right? Like you can ask Scotty B, you can ask Cubby from Light FM. They will know every radar to track and all of that. Or the other thing, say it on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Flying.
Airplanes.
Yeah.
I was going to say aviation. I didn't know which word you were going to use. But they're obsessed, like, where they'll track small planes or learn how to fly small planes. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't do the radar.
You just do the Cliff Notes?
I do the Cliff Notes, and I do love watching the Weather Channel.
JC Detail, thank you very much for your sub with Prime. Appreciate it.
Weather on the 8s, can't beat it.
Yeah, I think because I've been let down so much by weather people and weather apps that I just stopped paying attention. Whatever weather it is that day, that's what I'm dealing with.
Also, I loved watching, like, from, I'd say probably age 10 is when, like, you're like a functioning human, I guess, a little bit more. Age 10 up, News 12, New Jersey, loved it.
Yeah, you're a big loser.
Only once did I ever see them say, "Hey, North Arlington, thanks for watching."
They have those, like, the little promos that play, right? When they go into and out of commercial.
So
I think I happened upon them doing "Hey, Ridgewood" like once.
Lisa said they say Ridgewood all the time.
Well, I don't watch it, so. Listen, they want to say Ridgewood. They got to keep that advertising money coming in. And all the VPs and stuff live in Ridgewood.
Like, I want to work there so bad.
Anna Hernandez, thank you very much for your sub with Prime.
I think they'd hire me.
To do what?
Be an anchor.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go for it. Dee Dee, thank you very much for your sub. Appreciate that.
I would love to know the salary.
All right, let's get ready for the show.
How come I didn't hear that in my headphones?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the Carla Marie and Anthony Show. My name is Anthony.
I'm Carla Marie.
And this is the show. You are the show. It looks like we are in level 3 of the hype train already. 76% of the way through that. But as a reminder, thank you to Jen and Lisa, by the way, for all their gifted subs. As a reminder, Carla Marie is not drinking when we reach hype train level 5. When did you decide to start drinking again? Like, are you going to?
Your birthday, June 23rd, will be 1 month after my surgery. So maybe that day. I was literally just talking to Michelle, who's not your cousin.
Thanks.
Michelle from Ohio, who's in here often, about how, like, she and her husband, I guess, kind of cut back on drinking when they were trying to get pregnant. And she was saying how like they just kind of never really went back. Not saying they don't ever drink, but they don't regularly drink.
Well,
and
did they get pregnant?
Yes.
They did, right?
Yes.
So that's also part of it too, right? Like you cut back on drinking to get pregnant, then one of the people gets pregnant, so you're not drinking then. Then you become a parent and you're like,
that was
I'm not going out.
But yeah, so
right?
Okay.
Like a new parent.
Okay, but let's be clear. Parents can go out.
Of course, but they're not going out like they used to.
No, but I was telling her how I haven't drank in over a month. I feel great, but it's also like hard to tell because the amount of things have changed.
There's a lot going on.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I'm not like I'd say the only time I felt like, man, I wish I could drink right now is when we went out with Jake in Miami.
Yeah, I did some drinking that night.
You did, but I had some mocktails.
So thank you very much to Nick for his 100 bits. I think we got another 300 bits from Nick, and then we got a subscription with Prime from Monica. So thank you guys very much for that.
Oh.
If I missed you, I apologize. The chat and these things go by pretty quickly for us. So
Nara is in here. Good morning, Nara. She works at the pharmacy at Fred Meyer here in Ballard. I'm wondering if she has any tea because there was no chicken at Fred Meyer yesterday. And I'm wondering if there was like a huge sale that we missed or if the bird flu has officially hit.
Well, she doesn't work in the produce or
she
meat
might
section.
have the number of someone who does.
She works in the pharmacy. I feel like they're two different entities within the same building. All right, we got a lot of things on the list today. Obviously, we are back in Seattle after, I guess, almost 3 weeks since our last broadcast here, because our last broadcast would have been Thursday. What day was that? May
16th.
16th? It's been a while. So thank you very much for being patient with us. I know that the stream was different. I know we don't have all of our videos on YouTube right now, but as you travel, things change.
We're getting there.
And downloading and uploading full hour-long videos on YouTube takes a whole lot of bandwidth. And when you're traveling, you're not plugged into the internet, that takes a while. So we're going to do that today. What else do we have here? Future fans. We're going to have them on. Fingers crossed. Hopefully no technical difficulties like the last time. But future fans will be on with us at 8:30, and that's going to be pretty awesome. A big announcement at 9 o'clock, right at the end of the show. The Caitlin Clark drama. I do want to get into that. And then Carla Marie has sexist stranger.
Yeah.
Carla Marie, sexist stranger. Sounds like Walker, Texas Ranger. And then Japan is officially on.
You booked.
I do have my ticket finally. And sometimes it pays to procrastinate, because I saved a couple $100 on my ticket. So first thing, you want to explain what's going to happen at 8:30, Carla Marie, today?
At 8:30, we are going to have one of the founders, creators of Future Fans join us. Future Fans has been a sponsor of the Morning Show podcast. This is the first time we're doing something like this where we kind of go deeper into learning about the company or product we talk about. And Mike Schroeder, who is one of the founders, is going to join us. It's almost going to be like a little bit of like Side Hustlers kind of, where we learn about the how and the why. And I think that's super important, especially because this story of how and why they created this unique product, I think you'll really appreciate hearing from him. So it'll be cool.
Also, Sweet Eats by V, thank you very much for your subscription. And then I think Jen and Lisa just dropped more subs. So thank you guys very much. I think they're trying to single-handedly push us to Hype Train Level 5.
And when we have Mike on, feel free to ask questions and things. It's always helpful when you do that.
That's actually one of the best parts. And I know normally when we have people on, the first couple of minutes, there's usually no questions because everyone's learning and listening and whatnot, and you're formulating your questions. But for a new company, to have the opportunity to talk to a large group live and get some instant feedback, get some instant questions, it actually helps them kind of steer the future of their company too, to see what people are actually asking, right? Because you can do a focus group or whatever, but at that point you're paying an agency and you don't know like kind of what you're getting.
No.
This is an amazing community that people would love to get information from. But speaking of sports, Carla Marie, let's jump into the Caitlin Clark drama from the weekend. Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
So, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese had their first professional basketball game against one another when the Fever were playing the Sky, the Chicago Sky. And Angel Reese plays for the Sky. Caitlin Clark plays for the Fever. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, and you see it all the time in the NBA and sometimes in the NFL, when really, really high-rated rookies come into the league.
Yes.
People play them tougher. Yeah. Right? Like, you knock them down a little bit. You let them know this is the big leagues. Mm-hmm. And we're not gonna take it easy on you because you've got a bunch of sponsorship dollars. And that's totally fine. Right? There's ways to do that within the game. The big drama, though, over the weekend with Caitlin Clark is it's getting to the point now where WNBA athletes are basically just taking cheap shots at her, even when it's not in the course of the game.
Right.
Right. It's on dead balls. It's getting pretty egregious.
I've seen two takes. I've seen thanks to the WNBA, like I'm in it for the drama now. Mm-hmm. And then I've also seen I've never seen anyone ruin such a good thing like the WNBA. Like, you finally got the person you got, people to watch and pay attention, and now you're just throwing it all down the toilet because it's just like, no one's saying to bow down to Caitlin Clark. No. Like, she's a rookie. Like, she's got to earn her stripes and whatever.
You can play hard. It's fine.
Like, it's almost, you're being what everyone says women are. Catty, petty. But would I say the same thing if LeBron James was doing this? I don't know.
So it's
catty.
Here's my take on it. Like I said earlier, it is totally normal to play hard between the whistles, right? Like, you can foul people a little harder. Mm-hmm. You can set some screens in basketball. You can run through screens if Caitlin's setting one. That's all within the context of the game,
of course.
Right? There's nothing illegal about that. The big issue that happened over the weekend was the Fever were inbounding the ball. So the Sky had just scored. Fever were inbounding. Caitlin Clark is waiting for the ball, and she's just standing there. Now, keep in mind, the play technically just ended, and it's about to restart with the inbound. And Caitlin Clark is just standing there, and I can't remember the player's name, but just goes up behind Caitlin Clark, drops a shoulder directly into the middle of Caitlin Clark's back, and like levels her. Mm-hmm. Which, in the NBA, even as rough as the NBA could be, that would have most likely been a technical foul, maybe even gotten the player kicked out.
Yeah.
And they kind of just let it go.
But retroactively.
Yeah, retroactively, the league came in with a flagrant one,
but apparently,
which does nothing.
Yes, apparently it does. I don't know if it's like this in the NBA, but WNBA, if you get a certain amount of them, you do get suspended.
Yes, over time. But in the moment, it doesn't really do much. But here's my take on it. I think Caitlin Clark has actually handled the pressure pretty well. Yeah. She hasn't lashed out. But I would like to see some of her teammates in the game step in and protect her a little bit, right? Every team in the NBA, generally speaking, has someone who is kind of the enforcer on the team, right? They're the one that will go in and send the message. The most egregious example is Draymond Green on the Golden State Warriors, and he's a little bit of a loose cannon. Yeah. Probably needs to rein it in a little bit. But you have a guy who, if someone's beating up your superstar a little bit, you don't want your superstar to retaliate because then they get kicked out of the game. But you have a guy who will answer the hard fouls, answer the hard screens, and do a lot of that stuff. And at the very least, get in the face of the players who are beating up your superstar. And from everything I've seen, and I've seen at this point 5 Fever games this year, no one's really stepping up for Caitlin Clark. And you've got to...
But also, they're not... The Fever were... for 2 years in a row, the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
So.
But I think you still need to show some sort of team, I don't know, camaraderie, defensiveness, whatever. People need to step up for their player.
I saw
That's what teamwork is.
A headline that was something along the lines of like, Caitlin Clark's white privilege and looks are what got her into the WNBA. And I was like, what? And then it was like a repost, and it was like, Caitlin Clark might be the first white woman to experience racism. And I was like, but there's a lot of NBA players coming out and being like, the fuck are you doing?
I loved Charles Barkley. This is before the super egregious hit from this weekend, but Charles Barkley was on one of the NBA shows. And it was my favorite. He said something along the lines of, the WNBA is starting to get as petty as the NBA. He's like, you're better. Don't be petty like the guys at the NBA.
Yeah.
You're better than that. And the craziest thing is, usually let's use LeBron, right? He came in as the King James, blah, 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 $90 million sneaker deal before he even played a single minute, right? There were a lot of NBA guys that saw that and hated it. But LeBron's impact on the NBA as a whole was not nearly as great as Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA. Within the first week of her playing in the WNBA, they now have chartered flights. There is a direct correlation between Caitlin Clark playing in the WNBA and all of those players getting chartered private flights to all of their games.
But they don't
and that is the player you're going to beat up?
Yeah, because I think it's a lot of that. It's so hard where it's like, nah, we're not letting you, like, we've been doing this for so long. We've been grinding, and now you come in and you're supposed to be the savior. And I think I can understand a little bit of I've been doing this whole time, and now this person's coming in and they're getting all this attention, and we're supposed to thank them for changing our lives. I understand
Which she did.
a little bit of the, I guess, jealousy or animosity towards that, because we're all humans and we all have feelings. But to just try to, I guess, for lack of a better explanation, like dunk on them.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And then in the post conference,
the post game interview?
Kennedy, is that her first name or last name?
I'll look it up right now.
CH. She's like, I'm not answering any questions about Caitlin Clark. It's like, bro, that
was my least favorite thing about the whole incident with the Chicago Sky.
You don't get to do that.
Exactly.
You don't get to literally check someone in the middle of not even part of the game and then not answer questions about it. And you see Angel Reese got fined $1,000 because she didn't do any post-game interviews. And then the team got fined $5,000 because they did not basically control their team and have them do post-game interviews. Like, for Angel Reese, I love her. You're a rookie and you're pulling that shit? Absolutely not.
Angel Reese, I think, probably knew that she was going to get more blame than she deserved going into that. Because, you know, she I think, played hard the right way. Right? Like, Caitlin Clark's on your back. You can throw an elbow. You can do things. It's a little dirty, but at the same time, that's in the rhythm of the game. It's going to happen almost naturally sometimes. The other player, to pretend to be that tough, to hit someone in the back when they're not even looking at you or expecting it, outside of the whistles, essentially. Kennedy Carter. And then to kind of pull a bitch move and then say you're not going to even discuss it. It's like, oh, you were super tough when you were hitting someone in the back. Now you're not tough enough to answer some questions?
But
get out of here.
After Kennedy Carter did that, when she goes back to the bench, you see Angel Reese like high-fiving her, like giving her, and then someone quoted Angel Reese and saying, Caitlin Clark and I don't dislike each other or whatever. And it's like,
and part of it, you don't have to love each other.
No.
You're competitors, but like, I don't know. It makes no sense. I did see a great take on Twitter where someone said something like, if the WNBA started fining all these players $5,000 for cheap hits, it would stop immediately because they're only getting paid, I think, at most $250,000 a year. That is the highest salary.
I was like, wait, highest.
And most of the superstars are not going to be pulling that kind of stuff on Caitlin Clark because it's bad for their image.
The NBA?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on the hit, but someone like Draymond Green has been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars over his career.
That's why he's poor.
That's why he claims to be poor, even though he's still a millionaire. But yeah, if you did a $5,000-$10,000 fine to, let's say the woman on the Chicago Sky, those fouls would stop immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying don't play her hard during the game.
Of course.
If you want to knock her ass out on a screen, go for it. But the cheap shots, I mean, they just make you look bad as a league. When clearly one of the main reasons people are now watching a lot of these games is for that player, and you're risking taking her out. You're taking money out of your own pocket at that point.
It felt very much like watching the Monstars play against.
It absolutely
like they were being so mean.
It absolutely did.
Monstars against Michael Jordan.
Let's talk about Japan real quick, because that's going to be a short conversation. Then we're going to go to break, and then we'll bring in our friends from Future Fans.
I'm going to pee first.
Well, you can pee
No,
while...
I pee when you're bringing them in.
Yes, you could do that. Japan is finally happening. I booked my ticket last Friday, which I know people are going to say, oh, that's less than a month. I know. I was tracking it, and thankfully the prices didn't really go up until that day.
Yeah.
My $2,100 flight on Japan Airlines went up to $25,000. But thankfully, a Delta flight, which was actually a better flight for me, because my Japan Airlines flight was going to take me from here to San Francisco, a 2 or 3 hour delay or layover in San Francisco, then over to Japan. And there's 2 main Tokyo airports. It was going to take me to the one that's a little further out, and I'd have to take the train into Tokyo.
But you were going to do that because it was a Alaska partner, and you were going to get extra points.
Exactly. And then it would have been direct on the way back from the same further out airport. Delta had a flight direct both ways to the main airport in Tokyo for $1,500.
It dropped, though. It wasn't that low.
It dropped. So I saved from my original flight almost $600.
It's crazy.
And I get a better flight. I waste less time traveling, and I get to spend more time, obviously, in Tokyo.
I don't know about international, but I've been seeing over the last few months that the sweet spot now for booking flights is 3 weeks out.
Really?
And I'm like, I can't.
I think if you just track it every couple days, I think you're fine. And then what you could do, I mean, this would be a lot of effort, but you can cancel a ticket within 24 hours of booking it. So really, you could just keep booking flights.
Yeah.
Canceling, book, cancel, book.
If you've
cancel.
got enough credit on your credit card.
But doesn't Google Flights?
Yeah.
They have like on certain flights, they have like a price match guarantee type
I've only
deal.
seen it once, and
Okay.
I use Google Flights regularly, and I used it, and I got $20 back. But if you book through Google Flights, which doesn't cost you any extra or whatever, if you book through Google Flights and then the price drops, you get money back.
Yeah. So,
But you'll see the little luggage, little like Google colored luggage next to that flight, and it means like this flight qualifies for that. And I did it once, and I got at least $20 back.
So the thing that I'm interested in now, going to Japan, and maybe someone can join us on the show one day, is I want to learn a couple phrases, right, that I might need.
Duolingo.
But Duolingo is going to take me through like the whole setup of the language. I just want to know, like, how do I say,
Ni hao.
call the police? I don't know, like emergency sayings. Help.
Ayuda.
What? Did you just make that up?
That's Spanish.
And then what are some cultural things that I need to know? Like how do I
you.
No, how do I make sure that I'm not like the shitty American that shows up to Japan?
No, thumbs up. There's one thing that's like you can't do.
Thanks, Carla Marie. That was so helpful. There's one thing that you can't do. Appreciate it. You're so helpful.
What do you Google? The things not to do in Japan as an American?
I do have Google Translate, and I already downloaded because it'll work all the time regardless of your language, without or with Wi-Fi or with an internet connection. But if you download a language, you can use it offline as well. So I did that. Don't walk around while eating and drinking, says Marijuana.
So
that's good to know.
Don't wear your shoes inside.
Okay, I feel like I knew that one.
When you get to your hotel, you have to take them off in the street.
No. Stop it. This is why I can't trust you.
Okay, but I don't think you can wear them in your hotel room.
Who's going to stop me?
There's
the
a
question.
shoe house. You got to put them in outside. Don't tip. Don't break the chopstick etiquette rules. Do you know what those are?
No. Don't tip at all, like anywhere for any service.
Don't tip no matter how good the service. Never
Okay.
tip in Japan. If you tip, it can result in more inconvenience for the waiter as they chase after you to give it back.
Okay, so no tipping. Don't stick your chopsticks straight up. Lay them across the bowl. Oh, so like don't lean them on the bowl. Go straight across the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and don't stick them in the bowl either when you're not eating. I guess that's
Like don't leave them there.
Okay.
Okay. Don't talk loudly in public. You're
wait.
very loud.
Let's see. There was something. Don't dip. This is something I thought was true.
You don't dip into
You
your
don't
sauce.
dip
pour
the
it.
soy sauce Or you don't dip your sushi in soy sauce. And I plan on obviously having sushi when I'm in Japan. That's good to know.
You got to, how do you get it then? You pour it on? Do they give you a brush to glaze it? I would need the soy sauce. Otherwise, I can't eat.
Just drizzle before you eat, like drizzle it on top? Interesting.
Okay. It's 8:25, just a heads up. I'll go quickly. Don't talk loudly in public. You don't realize how loud you are.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need to tone it down.
Okay.
Don't blow your nose in public.
That's a you problem.
Don't talk on the phone on the train.
I wasn't planning on it. I don't talk on the phone off the train.
Don't smoke in restaurants. Don't eat while walking. Ooh, don't pour your own drink. If you're at a social event in Japan where drinks are being served, don't grab the bottle and start topping yourself off. That's kind of like the sake rule, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So like I said, maybe that's something we'll do closer to my day of travel. Maybe we'll have like a Japan expert on, a Japanese expert. I don't know. We'll find one, I'm sure.
Andy?
No. And that's who I am traveling with. I know someone earlier had asked, what's taking me to Japan? Always
Andrew.
wanted to go. Like literally ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to go. Between the nerdy history stuff that I love about like actual ancient Japanese culture, the anime stuff that I love, just wanting to travel more, the food scene in places like Osaka and Tokyo, I'm very excited for. So all of that is taking me out. Thankfully, Andrew from Elvis's show, he's going to be there for 2 weeks, and he has been there before. I'm going to join him for his second week while the friends that are there with him the first week leave. So we're going to have 1 day of overlap, and then it's going to be me and Andy hanging out.
I'm so excited for you.
And then next year, we'll take Carla Marie. So Carla Marie was going to come.
Yeah, I only go on trips that are expert planned, so I need you to go ahead and do it for me.
All right, we are going to be back, hopefully, like I said, barring any technical difficulties with our friends from Future Fans, and you'll see why we're having them on once we talk to them. So here we go.
We're taking a break.
Yeah, we're taking a break first. And we're never going to know that word. That's it. It's gone forever. Let's jump back in, Carla Marie. What do you say?
I'm ready.
All right. So, welcome back to the show. Thank you for letting us take that break. I don't know what that last word was.
We'll never know.
Which is going to bother me probably for the next 3 weeks because that's just the way that I'm built. Carla Marie, why don't you explain who we have joining us in just a second?
Okay, so we have Mike, one of the co-founders and creators of Future Fans, joining us, and I'm really excited for him to tell the story of how and why they created this experience. So, you're gonna hit the button?
Yeah, here we go.
Mike's here. Now this better work. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Look at that.
Okay.
As far as we know, people can see you and hear you, which is way better than the last time we had you on or tried to have you on about 3 weeks ago.
Grab that for us so
Yep.
we can put it up here.
There
okay.
we go.
Yes, everyone can hear. Okay. All right, Mike. So this is the Future Fans football box. I know we've showed it off on the show before, but or do you even, what do you call it? Experience box? How do you explain what this is if you're just in an elevator and someone's like, wait, what is this thing that you do?
Yeah, we call it an experience in a box around learning and loving a sport.
Okay, so
Way better than just calling it a box.
Okay.
Here's
So we
this
have
box.
over here, we've got the book that comes with this. And the book is kind of what walks parents through how to do all of this. And it's not something that's supposed to be done in one day, right?
Correct. And Future Fans broadly is helping little kids become big fans of the sports we love and doing it in this fun shared experience between grown up and child, split up over, 6 to 8 sessions depending on the sport, led by the storybook as you're highlighting, that adult and child do together. And it's a super fun way to bond and through the process that a young kid can learn all about a sport.
We just got a message from Teresa and she says, I'm 64. Will Future Fans help me to understand football?
It will. It'll help anybody understand football.
What I think is actually great, and I know we're going to jump into kind of the way the Future Fans works, but the way that you guys figured out how to explain the concept of downs,
Yeah.
which is actually something that's confusing for almost anyone that gets into football, right?
Yeah, for sure. And again, all this came about because I wanted my own daughter, then 5, to be able to, enjoy my favorite team's run to the Super Bowl. And she wasn't remotely interested. And, for years since she had arrived in this world, I had been explaining it to her, pausing the TV, checking out the Sports Illustrated for Kids books from the libraries. And, none of those things were working. And so that's why we kind of went and reinvented how you introduce a sport, because it doesn't seem like that it would be that hard, right? Like, I could have answered any question she had about football. She didn't have enough of an understanding to be able to ask any questions. And so that kind of is what sent us down this path to reimagine how this works.
And what is your team, by the way?
Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
So it was an unsuccessful run, but who knows? Maybe this year. Maybe it's finally the year.
Always this year.
So because it's not like you worked in kids' books or kids' industries prior to creating Future Fans. So how do you get into that?
Yeah. So like I said, my team's making this run to the Super Bowl. It was life-changing for me as a lifelong fan, but just also devastating to not have her interested in anything beyond the pregame snacks. And so I thought back to 6 months prior to this. She and I had done this storybook learning product where you learn about chess through a storybook that you and the child read together. In the first chapter, you meet this king who lives in a castle with his chef, and all he does all day is eat. He's so big, he can only move one step at a time. Okay. Within 2 weeks, my daughter and I could play a basic game of chess where she understood everything that could happen on that board. And so back to the Bengals run to the Super Bowl, I'm like, if you can understand chess in 2 weeks, chess is great, whatever. I really care about sports. So, inspired by this storybook-led approach to learning, that's kind of what set us down this path. And we have obviously a book team based out of New York City that's helped us bring the book to life.
Cool.
And Anthony, as you were describing earlier, just to give people a sense of how this works, right? We teach in completely parallel ways. So instead of trying to explain downs to a kid, the kids read in the book about these characters playing this game called Circle Toss, which is a beanbag toss game with 4 hoops. And so you have 4 tries to throw one of those beanbags into the next hoop. And if you make it in, you move to that hoop and you get 4 more tries.
And
If you
those hoops and beanbags are also in
It's cool.
the box.
Correct. So it's this advent calendar like experience. So, you get to the end of those end of those hoops, you get 6 points, you get to dance the scratchy bottom hop. And so we've just introduced kids, unbeknownst to them, to the underlying rules of football and downs without ever using those words.
It's
So
amazing.
they read about it. They read about it in the book. They then open up the box, as you said, and they get to play that game themselves.
And just a heads up, the link to get the Future Fans football box experience is in Twitch with our code CMA10. But if you do !football at any point, it'll also pop up right in the chat for you to just link over and do all that.
Yeah, and that code, the 10% off, actually expires this weekend because we want to get everyone to be able to buy this before Father's Day, because it is a great Father's Day gift. And the second we found out about Future Fans, the first thing I did actually was text my bro chat, which now is basically becoming the dad bro chat, because a lot of my friends have kids who are 9 and below. And in our chat, as most groups of guys do, we talk a lot about sports. And a lot of the guys in my chat have kids who they want, like you said, to get involved with their favorite team. They want to create like a father-daughter, father-son experience. And it's not easy, because getting a kid to pay attention to the details of football or baseball or basketball, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But I really do feel like through Future Fans, it does a great job of making them interested in their own way with what's happening on screen or on the field if you take them to an actual game.
Yeah, and that's the whole goal, right? Like, this is all about creating connection while utilizing the product over the course of 1 to 2 weeks. And then the last thing you get is an activity book that kind of extends the experience on an ongoing basis. But it's really around having this shared interest across generations. And for me, like, I described to you a couple of years ago, the Bengals are making this run to the Super Bowl and being devastated. Obviously, my daughter's been like the guinea pig through this. A year later, the Bengals again are making this run to the AFC Championship game. I just had to go to that game and meet my brother. And the night after we win the prior round, she's like, "Daddy, please don't go. All I want to do is watch the game with you." And I canceled on my brother. She and I took in that heartbreak together on our couch. And like, ultimately, that's what we're selling. The rules are simply a mechanism to unlock that, because kids are able to understand what's going on if you can explain it in a way that makes sense to them. And that's our whole goal. And this is, how do you create connection? Because there's going to be a time in my daughter's life where like she doesn't want to talk to me, and that's okay. But like, sports gives us something to always talk about, not to be mad about, to look forward to the next game. And then that opens back up, other channels of conversation. And so for me, like, we believe that like sports is this unique thing, right? Like, it crosses political lines, it crosses socioeconomic divides, and it spans generations. Like, unfortunately, there's barely anything left in this world that does that.
No, that's true.
We believe in that.
Jen said, "I've been watching football with my dad and his Jets for years. It would have been much easier to understand with a book than him screaming at the TV." And it's so true. And I mean, this isn't like a shock to anyone. The NFL is almost struggling at this point to get young fans to enjoy the sport and understand the sport. That's why they're doing all this stuff with Nickelodeon. They've got those games. They're doing all these different things. And it's like, maybe just teach kids how it works. And that's what you guys are doing. You guys are helping out the NFL more than they're helping out themselves a little bit here.
But I also love, as we get into the summer, right? Kids are out of school. Parents are always looking for activities to do with their kids. So even if you exclude the fact that you eventually can watch these games with in a more involved way, the book itself, the activities themselves are something you can do with your kids, right? So it's not just about the final product, which hopefully is bringing your kids into something that you really enjoy, but it's the actual activity on a day-to-day basis that you now have to do something extra, right? It's not just giving your kid a book or a video game and being like, all right, get out of here. You're doing it with them the whole time.
Yeah, like we said, the connection starts the second you do the product. It's meant to be done together. And again, it doesn't feel heavy-handed. Like, yes, it's called Football Week, but like, they're like, you want to learn about football at the beginning of the book, or you want to play fun games? And the kids in the book are like, fun games. And so that's kind of the impetus to the whole experience and getting to do it together. And then, as I said, the stuff at the end, you get this activity book that's got all these things that are meant to continue that connection that you've, created during the couple week time frame that you're doing the product. Game watch score sheets. So my daughter now is like always filling in and coloring in these footballs as we watch the games together. Game watch bingo, and we cover in these things like topics that we don't get into in the book, right? Like we're not covering challenge flags in the core product, but that's on the Game Watch bingo, and therefore, like, hey, Dad, what's a challenge flag, right? Like I can now answer that question because she's got enough of an understanding of what's going on that continues to build her knowledge and interest in the game.
And to be honest, I would say they're changing rules every year.
That's
like
true.
You're probably like, that's a great question. Let me figure that out.
Yeah, enjoy explaining the new kickoff rule, but that's besides the point.
Yeah,
But I think
I was glad that we didn't touch kickoff in the book.
But even like you mentioned, the challenge flag scenario, right? The fact that the child is going to ask you the question as opposed to you trying to explain it to them completely flips the whole learning process on its head. And now they want to learn instead of you being like, hey, look at the screen. This is what's happening. But also, Claire and Olympia has a great question in the chat. We know the answer to this, and we're very excited. But do you have other sports in the works other than just the football experience?
We do. So soccer's coming out this summer. So that's available for pre-order on our website right now. But we'll ship in July, and then hockey, basketball, and baseball are all in development. So goal is to have all major U.S. sports covered.
So obviously the biggest thing that you're trying, I'd say the biggest sticking point when you're trying to teach someone football is probably downs. What was the biggest hurdle to get over in soccer?
Yeah, that's a great question. Soccer is different, right? Like in football, if you help a kid understand downs, you're like 80% of the way there to them understanding what's happening on that screen. Soccer is like kids generally understand the basic concept of like ball goes in goal, right? But if you take a kid to a game, and I've got like, Columbus Crew season tickets, I've taken Ella, my daughter, to all these games, and like getting her to understand and follow, because there's so many different quick stops or whistles and she has no clue what's going on. Like the end line, right? Goal kick versus corner kick doesn't seem like that difficult of a thing, but like something different happens depending on who it touches last. That's kind of confusing. And like kids struggle to pick up on that. So I would say soccer's different, and it's a series of smaller rules, right? So obviously we like cover all the boundaries and sideline and end line, but we do them separately. Like trying to teach a kid what all those lines do at once is too much. So we isolate concepts into different things. So covering those, we do get into offside, and how to teach that. And then other more, I'll say less tangible concepts, like, sometimes it makes more sense to go backward than forward, right? That's a little bit of like an unintuitive approach to a lot of sports and things we do in American life of just go forward.
Yeah.
So trying to teach some of those broader concepts but like you said, it is little pieces that kind of stack up in a different way than football, where it's like one big hurdle.
I need the soccer one. But like my little nephew, he's 3.5 at this point. He's starting soccer this summer. I'm like, he's got no clue what he's doing, but he turns 4 in November, and I think the soccer experience will be a perfect gift for him come holidays or even his birthday at that point, because it's 4 and up. So I think that'll be amazing for him, and I bet you'll see such a difference, or I'll see such a difference between him playing this year versus him playing next year and actually understanding the game. Like, not only is it making fans, that's the whole point, but if you can teach a kid the ins and out of a sport at that age, imagine how skilled they will become at that sport.
Right, because a lot of the entry-level stuff, entry-level playing and whatnot, again, my kids have played soccer, it's all skill-based, right? You're working on like squashing the bug on top of the ball and kicking and dribbling. You're not worried about the rules, and that's fine, but like, that also doesn't help them when they go to the local professional team and watch them play. They have no clue what's going on. And so again, we're coming at it from the fan angle. We do think that like kids, as you get more interested in it, participation will increase. But obviously we come at it from this unique angle of how do you better understand, the game you're watching and ultimately at many points playing.
So I have an adult question, right? This isn't about the kids learning how to play, but as the guy, right, who's building this brand, building Future Fans, how many of your favorite things now become tax write-offs because you could just go to all of these games?
Yeah, we did get to go to the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl week, I should say. We were not at the game, but it's funny looking at my co-founder Michael and I was like, did we really create a job where like we have to go to Super Bowl week for our job? I'm like, this sounds like a real improvement over the healthcare work we were doing.
Right? It's like, oh man, tough life. You get to go to sporting. You get to go to Columbus Crew games. You get to go to Cincinnati
Right.
Bengal games. No, but honestly, I think what you're building, not only is it going to be super successful now and when all these other sports come out, but I think what you're doing is actually great for families across America. I really, really do believe that you're creating a cool touch point for a lot of parents and kids to get earlier in their lives.
And I love that it's not an app and it's not like something digital. Like, put your phones down. Everyone just go outside. I mean, you could also do it inside if it's a rainy day. That's fine. But just get outside as a family, open the book, and just be involved together. It's incredible.
Yeah, thanks. And again, I can't reiterate how much like we believe that like creating that community and connection is important. There's a reason this isn't on an app. Like it's really hard to do something with another person on a device. Like hands down. That's why devices, right, great in many ways, suck in many others. And for creating connection between people, like you've got to do it together, and that's part of the fun of it, and bringing people together.
And like you mentioned, watching Bengals games now with your daughter, there's a message from Lisa in our chat that said, it's something that will last a lifetime. We started watching Yankee games with my dad in 1991 and still watch together a lot to this day. So you're helping create, almost more easily create that bond with parents across the country. So first off, thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for being a partner with us on the podcast and on Twitch. And don't forget, if you want to order this, especially this week, you can get 10% off. Future fans, the 10% off still also works with the pre-order for soccer. So exclamation point football in the chat. You'll get all the info right there. Mike, thank you for making time for us. Seriously. And sorry about those technical difficulties we had a couple weeks ago.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
All right, let's make sure. Okay, and that is off.
He's the best.
It's crazy how easy that worked, and we did everything that we
did last time.
It just chose to work.
We forgot to say the disclaimer that Mike was not talking to us from jail. When we connected with him before the show to make sure everything was working, and as we set it up, because he was like, it looks like he's in one of those mini conference rooms where you can make a call and it sounds great. He was like, oh no, this looks like a mugshot.
Especially with his orange shirt. But
so
no, both guys, Mike and Michael, awesome.
Yeah.
And I really do think that this product is awesome. And it's a great gift. Father's Day is on the way. If you want to make sure you get it before Father's Day,
I would order today.
Order it today.
It's also available on Amazon, so you could get it with Prime, but then you don't get our discount.
Yeah, and listen, we give Amazon enough money.
But
let's stop giving them money.
If someone's going to do it, let's put our link, so at least I believe they can track it. That I think this is ours. I think it's trackable.
The Amazon was trackable as well?
For them. This looks like it looks like it is, because that's what it looks like when I do an affiliate one.
Okay.
I think.
Well, either way, if you want to check it out before and get it for someone before Father's Day, it's amazing. It's also a great birthday present. A lot of birthday parties over the summer. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so.
I'm definitely getting this for my nephew for Christmas.
Oh, I'm already telling all of my, I literally am telling all of my friends that they need it for their kids. I'm not buying it for all of them because if I was to buy a Father's Day gift for my entire group chat, I would be broke, more broke.
Broken.
And thank you for all the comments in there. That was great.
I think we need to do that because obviously we're going to have an interview with Jonah Marie, which I'm very excited about. That's an artist, like a musician. That'll be this Thursday. But I think that we need to start doing, whether it's content creators that are just unique and just their story. Like that is the one thing I miss about Side Hustlers is, for me, selfishly, interacting with other people and learning their story. And then the fun part of amplifying it and telling other people.
But I don't even think that's selfish. I think even when you consider that we had My Day Friday for so long, right? My Day Friday was just us. It wasn't live. It was a podcast. But from the very first episode of My Day Friday, we tried to make sure that other people were involved, right? We used to do the music clips that people would suggest throughout the week, topics that people would suggest online or respond to online. This show is never and will never be about just the two of us sitting here. I know that is physically what you're watching, but we wouldn't honestly be doing this if it wasn't for the chat, if it wasn't for people emailing us that when they watch on YouTube or whatever. or calling in or having guests. So yeah, I agree with you that the show, we could definitely add more people, right?
I think it'd be, because now doing my breast explant journey podcast and having guests each week, or, you know, when that was like the format that I was doing. Right now, it's just me. It'll be guests again. I was like, man, I miss this a lot, because it's very much how Side Hustlers was. And I'm not saying I won't do something like that again in the future, because now I'm seeing, okay, maybe I do have the time to get this done and do this. So who knows? But I just love doing that, and just getting people to tell their story is one of my favorite things. And then telling other people about it, and then hearing from other people and being like, oh my God, that guest you had said this, and it made me think this. And I'm like, if one person does that a week, I'm like, oh my God, I love it.
No, it is great. I want to go through this list to make sure we got to everything. So back in Seattle.
Liz from Gettysburg, talking about My Day Friday, said, I would get so hyped when my songs got picked.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
That's what we enjoy. And I think when we talk to radio people, and when I say radio people, I don't mean our friends in radio. I mean some of the managers, program directors, executives that we've talked to over the years about creating a radio show. I think the one thing that we not get pushback on, but maybe there's just a difference in vision. One of the reasons we love doing a live show, which is becoming more and more rare, a fully live show, is because of the interactions. And when we say that to a lot of these big programmers, they go, oh, well, we can get you callers, which is usually just a bank of paid actors, and you tell them to say what you want, and then they say it, and you like pretend it's a live conversation. Which listen, if people like that type of radio and just want to sit back and passively listen to it, that's great, and that's out there for them. What we enjoy doing, which is a much harder thing to build, is a show where our audience is interacting and contributing in the moment. And I think almost all of our best scenarios, all of our best situations come from that.
Because we do well with instant attention.
Well, there's that. No, I've
like
never...
the instant gratification is how we perform.
That's true. And it's one of the reasons why we used to love having like the text lineup while we did radio. Yeah. Because even if people aren't going to call in, they're way more likely to text. And if we would do a break and get 16 text messages immediately, we knew, oh, that actually connected with people, because only about 10% of the people are going to interact to begin with. Right? So that means hundreds of people had that same feeling, and this percentage of them decided to reach out. And it's one of the reasons we love the chat here on Twitch. And I will say, one of the things I loved the most this weekend, switching gears for a second, we did, and we haven't talked about it yet, our meetup in Florida.
Oh my God.
We did that on Saturday before we flew back to Seattle. And there was a moment, fun. Becky was the first person to show up with her family. Yes. Which was awesome to meet them. Her husband became like my best friend almost immediately. And then Felipe from Miami, Florida was there as well. And I saw Felipe, and we had met him digitally. That's right. Because he did 2 Second Tunes with one of his friends, or maybe Cover Lovers, one of the games. And I saw him approaching, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's him. And obviously it's different seeing people in person than in a small square on your screen. And when I said his name as he approached, Becky said, oh my God, Felipe in Miami, Florida. He said, oh my God, Becky in Miami. Chills all over again. And it was so cool seeing them see each other's names on the screen so often, and then actually knowing that they have someone in this community so close to them in their home neighborhood, which was really cool.
Tatiana, Caroline, Ashley, Nick, and Jamie were all there. And I guess Jamie was not going to come. Or sorry, Tatiana was like, I'm not going to come. Like, I'm by myself, is what she was telling me when she got there. I'm not going to go by myself. Like, and she said that she lurks all the time in Twitch and doesn't talk because she's like, I'm just so loud in real life that on the internet I'm just like quiet. And she goes, but I'm so glad I came. And then we start talking to Nick, who shows up, and turns out, and baby Jake.
This was the wildest thing.
Baby Jake was there as well with us.
So was my aunt and my mom.
And yes, Jake, our friend from Elvis Duran in the Morning Show, now lives in Miami. He works for Royal Caribbean, doing a lot of their content and stuff. Nick shows up, and he's like, I had actually just moved here a few weeks ago. We're like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, I got a job at Royal Caribbean. And we're like, oh my God, Jake. Turns out one of Nick's best friends literally sits next to Jake at work.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing that was weird. They live in the same area.
In the same neighborhood, and they're only, I think, 2 or 3 floors apart. And
At
they
Royal?
both moved here this year. Or I guess technically Jake moved in December, but really.
Oh, yeah. He used to also live in Napa, Nick, at the
Just
same time as
wild.
Jake. So,
Yeah.
and then Nick was
Thank
like,
you, Becky, because she was there and she heard it too.
Nick was like, I wasn't going to come. I like felt awkward or whatever. And then he came. Now he's connected with Jake. And now, like, I don't know. It was just getting to see as much as we see it here and on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Real life is always better.
Yeah.
And we got to see it in real life.
Better or better?
Better.
I think you said better.
What?
Like BEDDER. Oh, it's not so fun when people make fun of the way you talk. Is it, Carla Marie?
But English is my first language.
So maybe don't mess it up.
So I'm right. I don't know. It was the coolest.
Yeah.
Coolest. Cool. Oh, and Theo, he's a little babe.
Not only did I become best friends with Becky's husband, but Theo was my other best friend. Theo is about to turn 3 years old. He was Ashley's son, and he was awesome. Yes. But this brings up 2 things. I saw someone, who was it? Is it Meg? Said I want to organize a New York City meetup for this summer.
Like without us?
Maybe that'd be actually pretty cool if it was without us. Honestly, not because
It's like
I don't want to be there.
Roosevelt's have that.
Yeah, not because I don't want to be there, but
It has to be an unofficial because if something goes wrong, we're not getting blamed.
yeah. But maybe we could figure out a way to do one in the 1 or 2 times we're going to be back in New Jersey over the summer.
Or we were thinking October.
Or October. I think summer meetups are always fun. People
Yeah,
are more
but
likely
at least
to travel.
October, what is anyone doing?
That's true. But then we could possibly do one over the summer in Seattle as well.
Yes.
So
Also, we are toying around creating a Carla Marie and Anthony Facebook group.
yeah.
For the people that are like, I don't know, Discord's not my thing, but I want to stay connected because I'm now very active in the Roosevelt Insiders group, and it's incredible. It is so cool.
Maybe we could do this because we do have a problem. We like to do a lot of things.
And then we don't do them.
Not only do we might set them up, but then not like follow through and stay active.
Like we plant the garden, but we don't
water it. So what if we did Facebook, right? If we started a Facebook group and you were responsible, this is a little behind the scenes responsibility sharing here. If you're responsible for the Facebook group,
I could do that.
posting things and
I'm good on
whatnot,
there.
interacting with people on a daily basis, I can be responsible for Discord. And then we have our 2 group platforms that we make sure that we are interacting with. Because I don't want to send people to a place and then just not be there.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I'll be there on Facebook. I'm so active on the Facebook groups now between Roosevelt, my breast implant illness
Okay.
one, selling things, buying things on Facebook Marketplace. It is 2006 all over again, and I am there loving life.
Are you like a suburban 40-year-old born-again Christian mom?
I was actually going to start posting political things on my Facebook
boy.
just to set off everyone from my hometown.
You know what happens next? You move to the burbs in Nashville. That's where they all go.
And then I'm going to tell you all about my really great marketing business.
You already have the hat. The big silly hat that you wore to iHeart Country. You could wear that when you move to the burbs in Nashville.
Because you say I look like a mom on Facebook.
Yeah.
With that hat.
Yeah. And then you take your pumpkin spice pictures at the orchard.
Hey, babes, I have this really great group. You can make so much money by doing digital marketing.
Anara said, do you need help facilitating a Seattle meetup? You know, we'll figure that out. I think Seattle will be
We
first.
should just do it at this office.
We could. We also, brings me to my next point. We'll have more information Tuesday. I know I said I had an announcement today. We're going to push it to tomorrow.
No. Oh.
We're going to push it to tomorrow.
Then I have an announcement too this week.
Okay. We'll do 3 announcements tomorrow.
Wait,
There's a third one.
do I know it?
Yes, but no. But yes. It's a possible additional show this week.
Oh.
You
Okay,
understand?
but yes.
Okay.
And we're going to get to the last thing on the topic list in a second, but Sawyer said, can you?
Yep, here you go.
Said Carla Marie is officially on the other side of her 30s. Facebook is where it's at now. Lots of Riz, no cap.
All right. So we'll have 3 announcements tomorrow. I did not make the big announcement today. We'll move that to tomorrow because I do want to spend some time on it. And we do have one last thing to get to. Sexist stranger.
Oh my
Walker
God.
sexist stranger.
So My niece, Gabriella Marie, is texting me on Saturday, and she's like, can I FaceTime you? I have a story. She's like, it's going to make you so mad. And I was like, okay, what happened? So just for context, who Gabriella Marie is, this is my niece who just got married this year. Her and her husband, Anthony, doing great, loving life. But they played 2-second tunes.
And based on her podcast listening, some might say she's the best niece.
She is, because she's the only member of my family that listens to the podcast every day. Anyway, so she just got a new car, traded in her, like, new lease, whatever. It's a Nissan Pathfinder, beautiful car. Okay. She and her husband go to her parents' house. They get out of the car, and a man is at her neighbor's house that she doesn't recognize. He's, like, leaving. Like, could have been a delivery guy, whatever. No idea, but he's on their property. And he's like, oh, new car. Is this, like, right off the lot? It's super nice. And she's like, yeah, we just got it, or I just got it, whatever. And he goes to my niece's husband, better not let her drive it.
How old is this guy?
And she goes, it's my car. And he says, yeah, but your name is second on the paperwork, right? And she goes, no, it's the only name on the paperwork because it's my car.
That's a stranger, not even like not at the dealership. It's just some dude on the street.
On the street.
That's wild.
And I said, oh my God, like, you see this shit on the internet.
Yeah.
But when it happens to you in real life, I was like, what did you say? She goes, I just could not believe it.
Yeah.
And she's cracking up at me because I'm like fired up, and she knew that was exactly what was going to happen. I'm telling you.
Was her husband was there?
Yeah, I want to know what he did.
Yeah.
He should have arrested him. That's a cop. That's why. Like, can you?
That's crazy.
So, I would love to know what that man does on the internet if he's saying that stuff in real life.
Yeah. I'll tell you what he doesn't watch. He doesn't watch Caitlin Clark play basketball.
No.
He
Watches
definitely
Harrison
doesn't.
Butker speech on. That's how he starts every morning. I hope and pray that someone ever does that to me in real life. Like, I wish.
Here's what I always wonder about guys like that. I would love to think that none of them can have daughters, right? Because it's like it's very hard to have that mentality and care for a woman that you raise, right? A girl and a woman that you've raised. But a lot of them do have daughters, which is the wildest thing to me. Because it's like, do you want to live in a world where your daughter is in a relationship where her name can't be first on a lease? You want to live it like, you want to live in a world where your daughter doesn't make enough money to support herself? Like, I don't. And yeah, obviously you want to live in a world where your daughter has someone when you're gone to protect her or to be there for her. Right.
The same way you want your son to feel that way.
But that's just what a parent feels for their kid, regardless of the gender or age, right? But to have that kind of mentality,
I don't know.
It's so weird.
You're so small, and you need to be like, oh, but aren't I so powerful and big?
Yeah.
No, like, dude, you're so you hate your life.
It's
just please. I'm like begging. Why can't these things happen to me?
What would you do?
Punch him in the head.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't punch him in the head.
No, but I did learn something.
Because a guy like that will hit you back. For the record.
When someone says something hateful, sexist, homophobic, whatever, in public, I watched someone say that anytime someone says something, you say, what? You make them repeat the idiotic thing they said. Because now, when you ask someone to repeat something like that, it almost gives you the power a little bit to be like, what? And then they have to repeat it. And then, oh God, I don't remember what this woman said, but it was like a hat she was wearing, and someone called her out in a grocery store. It was like pride hat, something like that. And they said something, she said, what? And he repeated it. And she did something along the lines of like, did you want everyone to hear you? Why don't you say it a little louder? Like, you're not necessarily causing a scene, but if you're going to be an asshole like that, be an asshole so everyone can hear it.
Yeah. It's just so weird.
Tacoma Swifty said what I was thinking, though, because I live in Seattle, something like that is less likely going to happen.
Maybe.
Like, if I roll up to Fred Meyer or something, I'm like, oh, you drove here and not the guy? Like,
I do like asking when people say things.
I don't understand. Can you explain? That's what Dana said.
Here's one of my favorite things to do, especially because we're in an election year, is when people say things like, oh, I'm voting for this person because let's use Trump, for example. Oh, I'm voting for Trump because America's never been worse than it is now. I say, why? Or if someone says, I could never vote for Donald Trump, blah, blah. Why? Just tell me. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't. I don't think either candidate is great. But I love watching people fumble with the reason. And not because I want to make people feel stupid or anything like that. I think we need to start asking ourselves that question.
Yes.
Right? Oh, I hate this person. Why?
I just don't like them. Why?
Why? And at some point, if you just, if it's a personal relationship or whatever, that's fine. You're allowed to love and hate whoever you want. But when you're making decisions like that, it's oftentimes, it's a good thing that we should all do, right? And I've started doing it on things that I see on the internet that might trigger me or whatever. I go, well, why am I so mad? Do I need to respond to this person? Why? And then I end up deleting the burn that I had for that stranger on the internet. And then I just delete their comment, right? Like it's a good practice, whether it's political, whatever it is. Ask yourself why you're doing that thing or saying that thing. It's probably a good practice in relationships, right? Yeah. Instead of doing something in your relationship to maybe prove your point above and beyond just being right. Why? Do I have to make my partner feel worse about this thing just so I can feel better? The answer is probably no. If you care about the person, sometimes you just want to be right. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing to do. And it goes on, it's in the same vein as asking people to repeat themselves when they say something stupid or or homophobic or racist or sexist or whatever.
Like if my niece could go back and that guy said, don't let her drive. And she said, why not?
Why?
Then he has to literally say, because women are bad drivers.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in an accident, sir?
You ever got a ticket?
Vicky said, not that my husband was very sexist before, but he says all the time that having a daughter has changed his thinking and language so much. I'm sure having kids in general changes things. How you think and speak and all of it.
Any life experience is going to do that, right? You can't necessarily see another side's point of view without experiencing certain things. I think what we do now politically specifically is we like to beat up on people from certain states because of the way their governors or state legislatures act, right? You say, oh, everyone in California is a communist lib, right? Everyone in Texas is a gun-toting Republican or whatever it is. Like, what that does is polarizes us even more. But then you go to those states and you go like, oh no, everyone here's just like everyone in every other state. Yeah. There's normal people, there's great people, there's terrible people in every single state. And you know what you have in California, Texas, and Florida? You just have more of them because there's more people.
Right.
You don't see as many crazy people in Rhode Island because there aren't as many people in Rhode Island. And that's it. And you see a lot of crazy people in New Jersey because they're living on top of each other.
Correct.
That's the one big difference with New Jersey.
I'm going to Europe.
Yeah.
And moving there. Italy. Looking at Sweden these days.
Not gonna lie, my whole algorithm now on Instagram specifically is all things about and from Japan. And I'm learning how apparently anyone can buy property in Japan. You don't have to live there or have a citizenship. And it's like $90,000 for a pretty dope house.
That's fine, but I think we should go to Italy.
Why?
Because at least my roots are there. And I can get citizenship.
Okay, well, get your citizenship first.
I've been looking into it.
What is the path to citizenship for you? What do you have to do?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you get an Italian citizenship as opposed to me getting an Italian citizenship?
Great-grandparents live there, you qualify. But you have to if your great-grandparents is as far back as you can go.
Okay.
But you have to prove a lot of things. Like, I need certain of their papers.
Okay.
So I qualify, but I don't know if I will get it because I don't know if I have all of that stuff.
So you need a family that A, keeps records, like, and actually does things officially, and then keeps them in good condition.
For 130 years.
Yeah, that's a little rough. And listen, paper was pretty flimsy back then. I feel like paper was worse then than it is now. Probably less plastic in it or something. But
And
I
then
just
we're
don't know.
doing everything with the tea bag pens, like we had to.
So you have to find a way to prove that
My great grandparents were born, and for some reason I need to show their death certificate. Like, does it matter if they're dead? That's the only way I can become a citizen.
I'm pretty sure that everyone's great grandparents are dead.
Not everyone's.
Most people's great grandparents are very old.
My nephew's
Oh,
great grandparents
true.
are my parents' ass.
Okay, when were your great grandparents born?
They came to America in the 1890s.
Okay, all of those people are dead. If they were born before 1890, they're dead.
But if they're a turtle, they're not.
Is your grandmother a turtle?
No, just saying.
An Italian turtle?
Tortizio.
Get out of here. You have to find their birth certificate
I have their,
and death certificate.
I have their paperwork from.
What?
Lisa just said Tortuga. And it made me laugh.
Your Italian grandmother turtle?
I have some paperwork from Ellis Island.
Okay, but you have to have their death certificates too.
And I gotta read it up on it again. It's also weird. There was some law passed in Italy, I believe in the 40s, that says your lineage basically doesn't count through the mother's side. So like I can't go through my great grandma's side. I would have to go through my great grandpa's side.
Interesting.
But luckily, I've got two sides to do that through.
That's interesting.
I came out of the woman's side. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be honest with you. Italy, secretly sexist.
I would say openly pretty sexist.
So I don't know that I want to live there.
Japan.
But they do have a
I
female
know
president.
nothing about sexism in Japan.
There's a female president.
Okay.
So women can at least work outside of the home there.
I guess they... Oh, let me snooze this.
I would love to open a little gelato shop, except though I would do something like super American and open it up in Italy. I think they'd love that.
Pizza.
Oh! I pushed myself in the boob.
Where your boob used to be.
I'll be honest, that has been the weirdest thing. I always wipe my phone screen like that, right?
Yeah.
Before taking a photo, and I usually do it on my boob, and I went to do it, and it just wasn't where my hand normally goes.
What would you say? What would you make?
Oh God! Why did
What American thing could you bring back to Italy? Like hot dogs and hamburgers?
Ugh, I wouldn't like that.
Hot dogs, hamburgers.
I will sell regular ice cream, not gelato.
How do they feel about American cheese? Probably against it, right?
Chicken parm. Please.
You should just do boring American sandwiches, like on white bread with American cheese. Bring on all the process. Oh, you can't sell it in Europe oftentimes.
But they also have gabagool.
Capicola?
They definitely call it capicola.
I want to just not prank call someone in Italy. I just want to call a home in Italy and just ask them questions.
Well,
I want to put your dad on the phone with someone in Italy.
Andy's cousin, I think it's Felipe, lives in Italy.
Can we just call him one day?
He speaks English. I met him at Elvis' show. He gave me his tiramisu recipe.
That's Andrew from Elvis' show.
I
Has a
have
cousin who lives in Italy.
Mhm.
All right, we got to call him, and we have to do a three-way call. An actual Italian,
No, I can't.
born and raised in Italy, and either your mom or dad.
No.
Actually, let's put him on the phone with your sister,
No.
and they could just talk about
She's been
Italian
to Italy, though.
things. But do they say gabagool?
Who?
Italians?
No, I'm saying Ashley knows. Ashley's been to Italy, and she knows that what we do in America. That doesn't mean she, subscribes to it, but whatever.
Okay, Seattle Cocktail Club said I've got a guy.
To talk to in Italy, or she's
Yeah.
just saying that's a phrase that we say?
No, I think she's got a guy in Italy. Anyway, let's move on. We do have to get out of here because
My
there's
dad's
some
also
stuff
been
we
to
got to
Italy.
get done today. But tomorrow we will have those 3 big announcements. I don't know what Carla Marie's is.
Yes, you do.
I don't think so. But we'll figure it all out tomorrow. Back to back to back.
Mine is very prestigious.
Oh. So is mine. Whose is
no,
more?
it's not. Yours is
Whose
not
is more?
prestigious. Mine.
We'll see. We'll see about that. Anyway, we will be back tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being so patient over the last couple of weeks as we had some days off. We did the show a little differently last week. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We needed that time, and we appreciate you being there for us. It does not go unnoticed. Don't forget, there is a new episode of the Morning Show podcast available wherever you get your shows, and we'll be right back here tomorrow. Carla Marie, any last words?
Peace out, Cub Scouts. You look great.